So my question is, if we started the idea of Somali nationalism prior to the colonial power and the beautiful big map that has been presented, why for some reason then we reduce the whole thing between Hargeisa and Mogadishu? And if you see your conversation, if an example is that you are taking is this is not happening in neither Hargeisa nor Mogadishu. So for me, if we were talking about Somali nationalism, where is Djibouti? Somali Djibouti people? Where are the Jigjiga people to talk about Somali nationalism? And most importantly, where's Kenyan Somalis? So is there a kind of intellectual vile, intellectual fear to touch about beyond these two big parts of the Somali people, or the paper decided specifically to focus on, and then why in that case call to Somali nationalism and not calling Somalia and Somaliland? That's my question, and then when you answer, I will just hand up your hand.
The idea of imagined, as the last 2 or 3 statements Ahmed made at the conclusion of the paper, is that the national question does not emanate from the grassroots. I mean, that's the beginning of what I started with. It doesn't start from the grassroots. It's conjured, cultivated, invented, and then constructed by the elite. But that elite, there are 2 ways to think about the elite. One is to think of the elite as folks who are engaged in a zero-sum game. Aniga, yaka, innaga. Zero-sum game. Hadka hadii la dhaafo, let them go to hell. Okay? Or are they engaged in a positive sum game? So whether it's in Hargeisa or in Mogadishu, the republic we were talking about. Okay? Because the national project led to the creation of the republic. The other 3 were still missing. And so the question becomes, what screwed that royally? Was it the folks from Gabile and Hargeisa and Bur'o and Ergavo and Jalalaqsi and Beledweyne and Bolaburde and Kismaya who said, let's tear each other apart? Let me just answer that question very briefly. I did a bit of work in Johor just before the collapse in 1990, the spring of 1990. And then I did an earlier work when I was doing my PhD in Gabile, outside Gabile, talking to a farmer in Johor and a farmer in Gabile. It's the same question. And they virtually gave me the same answer, although they didn't know of one another. And they said, there, yeah, waaweynta Hargeysa Muqdisho ayaa intay balaayada soo kariyaan iyay hambadan lagu soo daadiyaan. Literally. Dabeedna hambada ayaan ku sumownaa. I'll translate. Said the folks, the big stomach folks in Mogadishu, and they were big stomachs, I'm telling you, with tiny legs. Okay? They cooked the filth in Mogadishu and in Hargeisa. Okay? Primarily they were talking about Mogadishu because Hargeisa was already devastated by that time. Okay? And then after they sort of indulge in themselves, and that's why they become Wabanzis. Okay? Then they throw the leftover poison to us, and then through that we get sick. So the imagined is the elite. Okay? If you go to Hargeisa, and I haven't been to Hargeisa because these 2 of them will put me in prison. Okay? You see already, they have gerrymandered the thing. 2 of them against me, right? This is the good old way Somalis could talk so generously. Is that whether it's in Hargeisa or in Mogadishu, the same types of folks are making sure that ordinary people cannot talk about their common issues. If you go to Hargeisa, people want clean water. If you go to Mogadishu, they want the same thing. If you go to Hargeisa or Zayla or Borama or Las Anod, they want schools for the children. Okay? And that little boy in the streets of Hamarwain that was holding the flag, that is the image he wants to see, reality across the landscape. And so if the elites want to use ordinary people as slaves, okay? And because ordinary people have been so devastated over the last 40 years through lack of education, through sectarianism, through the lack of ideas that will inspire them, okay? They have become the victims, and so has the state.
I still want the answer beyond Hargeisa.
Okay, a very important question. And I said, I think in an interview with some of the Somaliland journalists, maybe 5-6 years ago, and it's been circulating recently. They went to the archives and brought it back. I don't know why, but it's circulating. Relative to this question that Jama has posed. And I think there is 2 points to this. Dadkii kale, côté français des Somali people. I was chairing, in fact, the group that were bent on replacing Sharif Ahmed as a president of Somalia. I was chairing that group. Hassan Sheikh was my deputy. Yeah, and I remember saying to them in the conversation, they were about what they call the 8 big kind of a group, Hassan Sheikh, Farmajo, myself, people like that, Badiye, people like that. And I remember saying to them, that when Hassan won the elections, we pulled our votes together so that Hassan will get the vote after he became the Hassan was the one with the largest vote. And he was my deputy. And I remember taking him out of the part of the halkii lagu shirayay police school of police school what garanaysa arintina xamar taqaan school of police, taking folks from northern Kenya. Where are you folks from Djibouti? The Djiboutians were very quick in putting their own flag immediately, quickly, as in the late 1970s. And the same thing for the Zone 5 folks. Where are they? So my perspective on this, and I don't think Abdi and I are different on this, is that the guilt is shared by all. It's shared by all. To this day, I remember when I was a member of parliament, I was one of the people, I was chairing, in fact, the group that were bent on replacing Sharif Ahmed as a president of Somalia. I was chairing that group. Hassan Sheikh was my deputy. Yeah, and I remember saying to them in the conversation, they were about what they call the 8 big kind of a group, Hassan Sheikh, Farmajo, myself, people like that, Badiye, people like that. And I remember saying to them, that when Hassan won the elections, we pulled our votes together so that Hassan will get the vote after he became the Hassan was the one with the largest vote. And he was my deputy. And I remember taking him out of the part of the halkii lagu shirayay police school of police school what garanaysa arintina xamar taqaan school of police, taking him out of the conference, out at the back. We went to the back. That's the 2 of us. And I told him, and I said, listen, don't be a coward. Don't be a coward. Yeah. And then he said, oh, good. No, I won't. As soon as I get won, we'll meet. So we met. And we'll make this quickly. Myself, all the other 3 are dead now. Dr. Ali Khalif Kalaid, General Jama Yere, and the 4th person, Ismail Buba, Ma'alin Kege. Ismail Buba. These 4 of us. Big names at that time in Mogadishu. They were bigger than I was, even though I was running for the office. And some of them were my teachers. We went to see him, Hassan. He's barely 3 or 4 days in office. We went to Villa Somali, we met him. We wrote 1-page note to him in Somali and in English, and then orally to deliver that. And what we suggested was, in order to get to this most important issue, nothing was most important than the fate of Somaliland. And that's why I went there to run for office, to to hold this before it gets too late. And we said to him, Hassan, qof ra'iisul wasaare ah oo karti leh oo reer Somaliland doono list, and we'll bring you a list of 7 or 8 people that you can choose from, and the 4 of us will not be included. We will get that for you, so that there's no self-interest, no aniga. Yeah. Ku dhawaaq. Second, I have that document. Create a panel group, maybe about 13, 14, divided halfway between Somalilanders, people from the north, and the old southern part of the republic, those 2 groups. And in fact, who are committed to the national union, but they are open-minded enough to listen to the story that is bubbling up in the north. Yeah. And they become somewhat judicious people to understand this and then bring it out. And he said, okay, I'll do it. He's a president, 2nd time now. Never did. Never did. Halkaas way ka dhumatay. My point is, marka waxa weeye waa laga gardaran yahay Somaliland markay noqoto on this issue. God has not given them the special instruction that they should be the ones who would always have to think about national union. Where are the others? And where is the elite in Mogadishu? And what the reason why I left Mogadishu, because there was nobody to talk to about these issues. Nobody. Okay, and I resigned. But there's a problem for Somalilanders too, and this is my final point of the question. And that is, iyagina waxa iskugu biiray 2 things, 2 issues. And they carry those issues, it's like a big rock. Ma kici karayaan. They can't get up. One, waxa weeye a certain, I think, really bothersome of othering the Somalis from the south. Kuwaas iyaga. War meeshaas khayr male kuwa naga dhaaf. Aniga ayidhaha mararka qaarkood caynkaas. I said myself. So I feel part of the guilt. That's a problem, because the people are not the elite, as Abdi has said so clearly. The people aren't the elite. They cry for this, the regular people. Yeah. The second issue for Somalilanders is that even though I agree with them that they should not be the sole people saddled with the responsibility of trying to keep up the flame of national unity, they should still play their role in this. War ma waxay kari waayeen reer Somaliland. Yeah. From Abdurrahman Tour, yeah, Mahmoud Abdurrahman Ahmed Ali, all the way to my friend Abdurrahman Erro, waxay kari waayeen inay yidhaahaan war bal qadiyadan aanu dad inaga midoo reer Somaliland ka soo saarno oo ka bixi kara godkan iyaga ka bixi kara. Oh, حق Somaliland ilaalin kara. I'm sorry for those of you who are not speaking Somali, but I'll translate. Yeah, who liberate themselves from this cave, yeah, darkness, while protecting the welfare of the Somaliland people and their rightful cause. But at the same time, they are big enough to entertain the idea of revisiting the condition of the Somali people. Well, it can be I've spent many hours in Hargeisa every year. Jama is my witness. Those are the 2 issues for them. But I want to repeat, Somalilanders are not the only one who have been assigned the responsibility of revival of Somali national project. And I think the big failure is on the south to a great extent, but equally important in Djibouti, in NFD, and in Zone 5.
Well, I would have loved to be there today asking the question, so I don't want to abuse the microphone. Please hold on. Please hold on. I want to see the hands up. I will take 3 questions. Please questions, because if we don't have much time. Number 1, number 2, number 3. 2 of them.
Good.
Number 1, number 2, number 3.
Yeah, a follow-up. Territory of Djibouti is Somalis, and the second question is, and the brothers remember the last time, Mr. Dual Polity and dual politics and monopolitics, which is the Hawiya and
Yeah.
Darod.
Duopoly and monopoly.
Dual monopoly, and you the Isaac and monopoly in Somaliland. Just to carry on that conversations, why don't you and your brothers and help your kinship in Ethiopia while other people are making empty lands as districts, and what our Barre that used to govern from Aware to Aisha still hasn't got anything. Thank you.
Good. Number two, the question there, you, yes.
My question is for you, Professor Ahmed. The tribal political fragmentation is everywhere across the Somali-speaking communities. And I'm from Somaliland, and I can relate to so many of the points that you made. As a woman from Somaliland, we are always, in my opinion, treated as a second-class citizen in Somaliland because we are not part of the decision-making. I was supporting your political party, Hila, and I thought it was one of the few political parties that could represent me. So my question for you is, how can we build a system which in Somaliland that favors and also include Somali women in Somaliland to be part of the system?
Yeah, excellent.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Surah Qasim Mohammed. It's such a pleasure to hear from the professors on such an important topic. I'm really interested in the place that we began our conversation. I can try a little bit louder, but I'll try not to. I'll try to begin the question where you began your talk, which is the question of the role of scholarship. As a researcher myself, I think a lot about the role of the Somali past in the mechanics of conflict and armed conflict particularly. Sometimes I come to the conclusion that our problem is not actually not understanding our past, but too much past, a surfeit of memory, a surfeit of competing dialectics that become the terrain of contest upon which we wage other forms of war. So I wonder, as scholars, what you want us to do with the past, how you think that we should shape it, and what our role is. I feel that in many cases, the academy is not a particularly strong, doesn't give us a particularly strong set of tools in order to develop something like a Somali nationalism. So what's our role with history?
Okay.
Go.
The answers will be also short. So we can take it.
Yes.
Okay. The map, I think I responded to that early on, so I won't belabor that. But this question of why don't you go to your part of the territories and help your people in our Barre? Okay? I'm going to be professorial in responding to this question. The assumption is that we are all equal. Yes, as human beings, we have been created or evolved, whatever you want to believe. Okay, so everybody's an individual. So the assumption the question makes is there is one way to think about your people. Who the hell are my people? Is the question. Okay, is it my mother and father? Will they so happen to come from two different genealogical groups? So who the hell am I? Biologically, who am I? My mother? Am I my father? So the poverty of that way of thinking about the identity of the human being is absolutely backward and irrelevant to challenging the quantity of the human being. Is absolutely backward and irrelevant to challenging the questions that are of concern to us. So who am I? Am I from Gabile? Yes, I am from Gabile. Okay? But I'm also from Kismayo, because I have a common agenda with the people of Kismayo. And I want to make sure that both the folks that he's talking about in Aubari or wherever else in the Somali region, okay, and the people of Kismayo, we did a survey in 2005. Okay? We went to Garowe, we went to Kismayo, we went to Mogadishu. I couldn't go to Hargeisa because, so you know, guys know. Okay? Right?
At the airport.
Kali toobad keen baa lagu leeyahay. Ilaahay baa loo toobad keenay. I love the people of Hargeisa. I mean, I'm serious. I love them, just like my kids. I love them. But so, and so we asked the question, ordinary people, not the politicians. So we said, if you are ill, seriously ill, I have 2 doctors that can treat you. Midwa bo'ba, laksewa reerkiina. Kakale wa 0.5, but he's a heart surgeon, or she's a heart surgeon. Which one do you want to treat you? Your kind, quote unquote? We don't want that. We want skilled people who can help us solve our problems. And therefore, the problems of the people of Kismayo, the people of Aubarre, the people of Ime, the people of Erigavo, and the people of Galkayo, common people's problems are identical. And so that becomes the common base. We deal with the problems ordinary people are facing, and we build on the basis of that. Rather than think, or that's exactly what Ahmed is talking about. Yaka, aniga, nobody's talking about innaka. So that's the first thing. This question about scholarship that the doctor talks about. I will disagree with you, my dear sister. And that's, in fact, the point Ahmed is making is that we don't understand our past. We think we do, and then we were told to us to write an essay when I was in high school in Amud, the Somali National Public School, boarding school. Okay? And that question, the essay we were supposed to write was that little knowledge is dangerous. Write an essay on this. And so we wrote 2-page essay by hand in those days. And maybe we should be writing that essay, Somalis collectively. Okay? What do you know about your past? Besides being Reer Hebel Bana. Okay? Then you will figure out that we need to reinvent the past, not as we thought of it, but actually as what it was. If you want to start that, read my first book from 1989, which is primarily about the region they are calling Somaliland.
Okay, I will pass Ahmed to answer to that question. I think Ubah, and also maybe go back to Dr. Sulekha's comment.
Yeah, 3 points quickly that were raised by the questions. The first question is the gentleman sitting across the table. Important question. And why don't you go to the kin group area? So ma su'ash. Ilaahu niman waxba ogeyn. Ha cadaabin bay Soomaalida taa. So adamaad gar. He doesn't know this. The campaign for Hila began in Jigjiga. In Jigjiga. On a road from Jigjiga, then let's make it blunt. Qoleenka Samaroonka la yidhaa halkii degan yihiin. That's what he means. Jigjigan baabuur ka soo kaxaysa. Baabuur. With the help of this local community, they're including the leadership in the area. And I drove for the first time in my life. I've never been to that region. From Jigjiga and to Harawa and to Lafa'is, Gesder, all the way to Aubarre at the end, and then crossing the border. And I was telling them about the possibility of an organization that is going to address the needs of that particular community in coalition with others in Somaliland, because the concern was over Somaliland. That's where I am born. That's where my primary identity comes from, Somaliland. I went through that. Nobody has ever done that to this day. Qof Somaliland u dhashay oo Ethiopia ka soo bilaaba campaign lama hayo taariikhda ilaa caawadaan la hadlayo. I don't know where my brother was at that time. We had over 2,000 people crowding the biggest hall they can find in Aubarre. Yeah. And all of them were primarily that community. wixii ka dambeeyena waad la socotaan bay la tahay waddanka intiisa. What I said in the campaign in Burma, in that big day of reckoning, I had no speech. He went off. I told them, sorry about this. I told the audience, would probably 100% were Samaran folks. Kinship, not tribe. Kinship, not clan. I told them, I said, aniga eel bay ahaya siyaasadeede idinka eel ma idin haya. Some of you will remember that. Eel ma idin haya. Hadduu eel idin hayo, yeah, vote for Hila, and then we can make your legitimate concerns in front of the Somaliland people and in Hargeisa. I don't know what else I could do. Build a party, organize them, give them a message so simple and so succinct. Just vote, and then we will have a place to bargain from. Yeah, some of them did. Out of 190,000 people, 190,000 people, my brother, in the Diwanka Kujira, and only 85,000 of them voted. The other 100,000, phantom, walalaya. And but it's a debate and a responsibility. Still a debate. I feel the same thing as Abdi says. And it's the same concern I have for people in Arigabo and in Las Anod. I went to Las Anod with other candidates. Candidates ki kalordan, yeah, badankoogu waxay ku lahaayeen xero ay ka dhigteen caynaba. Subaxa la tagaa waa markii madaxtiriska, markii dambe way qaraxday madaxtiriska. Subaxa la tagaa maybe 9 o'clock, 4 o'clock waa laga soo yaacaa. Caynaba la yimaado. We had a big office with 8 people working there at the heart of Las Anod. And I was walking through the streets of Las Anod, talking to the community. Dadkii waaweynaa dhalinyaradii la sheekaysa. Oo markii dambe ay dhaheen, waryaadeen. War ninkan Samaroon baad doorka sida loola hadla garanaye, war isaga dee codka aan siino. So the responsibilities are everywhere, not just one community. Way dhaaftay. Haddii Soomaali la soo daba qabanayo way dhaaftay. Reebel iyo community way dhaaftay. The game is over on that issue. So second point about, very important point about women's role. Seriously important. At one level, if there are multiple contradictions in Somali society, maybe, and certainly in Somaliland. I have been there now for the last 12 years. I have watched it very, very closely. It is absolutely disgusting, the place of women in Somaliland politics, society. 82 members of parliament, 1. inantaasuna way dhaxashay baa layidhi meesha. So هذا ما أقدر. So هذا قرميست. يعني Somali culture as a whole is extremely chauvinistic, yeah, and sexist into a way that really makes you sick inside. In Somaliland, it is acute. On top of that, extremely acute. And what can be done? One of the reasons why we created Hila was exactly to make that case public and debate it and push it through. And if we were elected in that election, yeah, dagaalka ka dhici lahaa baarlamaanka Somaliland iyo constitution waxa ugu horeyn lahayd the revisiting of the rights of Somaliland women in Somaliland. But that did not take place. Marka maxay sameeyeen? Waa in la inta la nool yahay de waa in la rafdo de oo la ururiyo dadkii oo de you just keep, you know, carrying that boulder. You know that story of Sisyphus, yeah, the myth of Sisyphus. You keep the boulder up, markaas dusha ma gaarsiin karaysa wuu kugu soo noqonaya. And then you pick it up again, the next group. The labor of Sisyphus is part of the curse of human historical living. But that issue is a waxa weeye waran ku yaala Somaliland haddaan la iska goyna, ya waa dhaqaaqin. Taan halkan kaga haro. Soomaalida kalena waxaan qabaa inay saa u dhaamin. Final one, the academic question. And I agree with Abdi. I think sometimes young people maxaan ku dhahayay may gudagelin the utility of scholarship. But that's all after, but just the utility. How do you use scholarship to live a life worth and better than the one you live? May gudagelin. أنا waxaan qabaa 3 amuurood ba academic life If it is real, they haddaanay ahayn dee baaladii suuqa laga soo iibsanayay haddaanay ahayn oo double master bansi taimka yeah, uman maqla. So atmade waxa ahayn dee. If it's real and you have gone, you walk through fire. That's what it is. You walk through fire. Waxaan iskama yimaadaan. I mean, scholarship is like walking through fire and a long process of building. And if you are talking about the uses of scholarship in this context, which is an important question, three things I would suggest. One, the first, and that is the enlargement of the mind. Haddaan gibili joogi lahaa sidaan ugu dhashay, aan joogi lahayn. Odayaal ilkii ka daatana meelahaas uma noqon lahayn dee. So waxa naga dhiga haddaan wax noqonnay waxa weeye the key to what we have become is what we went through the experience of scholarship and learning. The enlargement of the mind. The civilized life, that's the basis for it. Arso sheegate. So halkaan ma joogna caaw. Tell me, wadan iyo dad isdhisay, yeah, oo waxba barantay. Arso sheeg. So that's why education and health are the two important things in the development of a society. If you have healthy people and who are educated, they can create miracles. Labadaas ma arag weligay dad. I have never seen people in the world who are so sick at the large level and bad health, yeah, and who are so ignorant and they are top of the world. Never. But I can give you examples if we have the time of people. Very little natural resources. The Japanese are an example of this. They have no natural fishing and rice growing and few things like that. And they had the atomic bomb on them, the only country that will suffer this. And within less than 40 years, like the Sphinx, they rose up and began to dominate the world. Japanese. Marka, enlargement of the mind. Two, the specific things in it barato there. You learn some specific things. Anu afar shay baan odhan lahayd qofku inuu ka fikiro inaad specialization gasho hadhow. One, learn about culture in a serious fashion. And then you'll find that what of it is beautiful and worth preserving for the journey of the future, and what of it needs to be so that you leave that behind. Culture, knowledge about the culture, that includes religion, that includes tradition, other things. diinta islaamka waxay tahay Soomaali ma taqaano. Waxaan jeclaan lahaa haddii waqtiga la heli lahaa dooda aynan galno. You think you are Muslim, but they don't know. Alaabtii baa lagu soo xidhanayaa warka hadda waa Muslim, and then you begin to debate, and that's intaa ma qodna. So haddii kale de waa laga adkaan lahaa qabyaaladdan iyo waxaan waa laga adkaan lahaa haddii Muslim dhaba la yahay.
habeen kale waynu qabsanaynaa.
Habeen kale. Marka culture haddii kale baro the economy, yeah, how it works and what it is. So that's a complicated, but it's not all that indecipherable to understand economic reality and economic life. Like in there, you need to penetrate into that, particularly how to work and understand building a viable economy for a developing society at the margins of the international system. Or politics. To a certain extent, is about culture and politics. And politics, we're illiterate about this. Yeah. What is politics? And I have spoken about this in other forums. And then the final point, which is increasingly beginning to press hard on the Somali territory, the whole of the Horn of Africa. That's the environment. The degradation of the environment may be the single biggest war that is going to engulf the Somalis. Haddii aan la gaarin dhul soo engegaya, kuleelku soo kululaanayo, biyihii ay soo yaraanayaan, soo adamaad garan. I mean, waxa soo socota oo imika la arkaya. You can see the signs of this now, of an enormous catastrophe at the level of environmental decay and destruction. Waxaasoo dhanna dee waxa keenaya maxaan ku idhahay aqoon baa keenaysa. And the final point is, intaa markaad barato, organize. Somali ma taqaana how to organize things. Organize. Adigoo waxa hubkaas sita. Organize with that. And then there might be possible to break through into a new thinking and a new world.
We will do another round.
One more question.
We'll be doing what we had
One more question.
3 questions to take it, please.
Thank you so much for being here. It's honestly an honor to be in front of the both of you. I've read a lot of your work. We've touched on the role of Somali women in moving forward, and I know that you've mentioned women in Somaliland specifically. after the building of SYL, Somali women were very quickly forgotten about, despite the fact that they've put in so much effort, not just their dahab, as was mentioned, but also their lives. What would you say, because Somalia we're everywhere now, what is the role of Somali women in the diaspora and Somali women back home in rebuilding, and what is their place like actively? What can we do? What are some, what do you suggest?
My question is for Dr. Abdi, and it's very short. If you are invited to come back to Somaliland, with welcome without unconditional, would you come back? The second
One question, please.
That's enough.
Okay.
That's a big question, and I would love to hear it.
Yeah.
So,
James Fibrous, yeah. I've got a question actually for both of you, if you don't mind. It strikes me that you do have a bit of a common analysis in your criticism of elites and the concepts you've been developing, Ahmed.
Yeah.
So my question is this: what positive trends do you see? I mean, you've painted a pretty bleak picture there. What positive trends do you see, and what role do you see for diaspora? Overlaps a bit with other questions, particularly youth in the diaspora, where I see now a shunning of any talk of clans on the one hand, but on the other hand, some people who really emphasise the clans, who have WhatsApps, who talk violently about clans.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So please, 1 minute to answer the questions.
Good. All right. And thank you, John. Quickly, and thank you. I think waxaan u baahannahay dee in la isku soo noqdo, different kind of a time and place to continue this debate. It's endless. So even if we solve these problems, there will be new problems. That's the nature of the human condition. But these are excellent questions. Diaspora, role of Somali women in the diaspora, right? Let me make it with enormous respect and care, but at the same time, a bit of bluntness. Roolka dumarka Soomaaliyeed, whether they're Somalilanders or from the rest of the old republic, and but they joogaan bas zone 5 and other places, Somali women, yeah? War idinku horta is-xoreeya idinku horta. Intaydan meel kala tegin idinku is-xoreeya. Waayo waxaan ugu arkay raggii way amba ha tashadaan, or it is an intentional project, and in some cases it is, or it is an accidental history, in monopolize power by men. It is very clear. Kolka the first thing waxa weeye. All right. And thank you, John. Quickly, and thank you. I think waxaan u baahannahay dee in la isku soo noqdo, a different kind of a time and place to continue this debate. It's endless. So even if we solve these problems, there will be new problems. That's the nature of the human condition. But these are excellent questions. Diaspora, role of Somali women in the diaspora, right? Let me make it with enormous respect and care, but at the same time, a bit of bluntness. Roolka dumarka Soomaaliyeed, whether they're Somalilanders or from the rest of the old republic, and but they joogaan bas zone 5 and other places, Somali women, yeah? War idinku horta is-xoreeya idinku horta. Intaydan meel kala tegin idinku is-xoreeya. Waayo waxaan ugu arkay raggii way amba ha tashadaan, or it is an intentional project, and in some cases it is, or it is an accidental history, in monopolize power by men. It is very clear. Kolka the first thing waxa weeye, you would have to organize yourselves, particularly young educated women like you who are sitting around here. Organize yourselves, yeah, and liberate yourself from the shackles of theological and cultural traps. Taasana ku odhan lahaa. Taa markaad samaysaan, when you do that and you move in that step, then you become engaged as citizens of a community, yeah, and participate in the debates and participate in the leadership and on and on and on. I have to say this was Jama is witness to this. This we were trying to do at Hila, yeah. It was the only organization among all the parties, yeah, including the current one sitting, yeah, that had a vice party leader as a young woman, barely 30 years old, educated in Malaysia. Mona Bilahersi is her name. So at the mother. And people were wondering, what is this? Samatar is trying to create. Marka the power is in your hands to a certain extent. You can fight with the men in that sense and push them back, as others have done in other parts of the human history. And then secondly, you can get men who would be comrades in arms on this and then reconstruct the project. That's what it is. And Arrington, the role of the diaspora, which is very big and important question, or it needs a seminar on its own. And the diaspora, Somalis who belong to what Abdi and I are defining as the disease that's killing the Somali people. Their role is, they don't have any role except redemption. They're in a that will be their role. Yeah, but those who are thinking about, or at least have open-mindedness about some project of rebuilding of that part of the world, there's plenty for them to do. They would have more resources than the Somalis back home. We know that. Yeah, they would have more education than the Somalis back home. We know that. Yeah, they would have greater experience of cosmopolitanism than those who are marooned in the Horn of Africa and in the Somali territories. So they can use all of this in many ways to kind of ignite this new historical process. That's what I would suggest. And then in the end, like the women, they will have to organize themselves. I don't know of any diasporic organization at all, not just in the UK, in America, in Canada, large number of Somalis, in Europe, in East Africa, in some parts of East Asia, like Malaysia. I don't know of any Somali diasporic organization seriously visible, whether they are young or old, that have a sense of national consciousness and in the process are activating themselves to push that into some agenda. I don't know of any, including here in the UK.
Thank you so much, Abdi. Please direct answer to.
I won't take the woman's question since he has answered.
That's been covered everything except the question directed to
You
you.
are invited to Somaliland, so would you come on one condition, when it's liberated? What does that mean? What does liberation mean? Liberation means that Somalis in the old republic, we can disagree. But as Ahmed said, even if we are going to become 10 nations, we have to come to that on the basis of a conversation that's civil and peaceful. But let me tell you one thing. Many of you may not know. The salary that I get from the Somali parliament, a substantial proportion of it go to students in Somaliland. Pay their fees, 50% women, 50% boys, and 50% girls. And also in the South. So when there's that kind of conversation, I don't have any animosity. I want Somalis to succeed. I speak for, quote unquote, the North when I'm in Mogadishu. Okay? So it's my home. The country is my home. Finally, the last question. Positive trends in the elite. I will slightly add a bit to Ahmed's answer on that. Somali educated classes, even in Europe and America, when they go back to Somalia, particularly when they go back to Mogadishu, they succumb to the same disease. So they have not been inoculated from that political tribalism that has destroyed in the country. So it lives right here amidst you. So change your mindset and organize on the basis of commonalities. We can all be better off. Somalis seem to think about in the form of a zero-sum game. What happened to a positive sum game? Okay. Finally, the last word.
Yeah.
Just want to take this minute for all of you for your patience, perseverance. To Ayan for her generosity of sort of dealing with a former Somalilander and then bringing him amongst your midst. But bless you all. We are grateful for your patience and respect and decency. May Allah bless you all.
waxaan baasay ku xirtay maxaa waaye
حتى هدو فرني أبك دهب بلاس وأمان هذا لسه دقابك دهب بلاس كو حفيده هنتدادا وكور ورلاو